they're not my fault, and I can't do anything about it because I have a genetic defect. Now, that's not even a fully correct statement, because we now know with epigenetics, the new science of genetics, the mind can even take a mutant gene and rewrite it to make a normal product from it. And this has been demonstrated experimentally, so that mutant animals, when put in the right environment, actually can cover up the mutation and not express it. So, but legitimately, I could say 5% of the people can say, I received a bad gene at birth and it interfered with my life. Yeah, but that says, wait, then 95% or more of the people on this planet cannot use that excuse if they have a disease. Why? They got here with a fully intact genome and should be able to have a healthy, prosperous, loving existence. And then I say, and these people, if there's a defect or a disease that manifests, can they overpower it, or did they create it in some sense? And the answer is yes, they can overpower any of these things, and yes, they most likely created them as well, but they didn't do it consciously. So I'm not saying anybody in their conscious mind was sitting there at night thinking, oh, I wish I could get cancer, I wish I could get cancer. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the subconscious mind put them in a situation of stress in such a way that cancer is a consequence of the stress. And if you change that stress, you can change the expression of the cancer. That's exactly what happens in a spontaneous remission. When a person everybody expects this person to die with cancer. And I said, well, what is the common factor? What is the common thing between all of these different cases of spontaneous remission? And the one common factor that seems to underlie all of these is the factor that these people change their belief. They said, oh, if I'm dying, then I'm going to go out and enjoy my life. I'm just going to let go of all my stresses and all my problems. If I only have a little time left, I'm going to go out there and enjoy every day I have. And in that process, when they go out and start enjoying the day, at some point, all of a sudden, the cancer's gone. Why? Because it was the other mind problems that generated the cancer, and when they let go of those problems, then the cancer can revert again.
Yeah, and I guess we also could tie in the fact that, again, awareness of, for instance, what you actually eat and put into your body and your behavior ties very much into this, right?
Absolutely, because if you were, you see, I'll give you an example. 90%, so this is a big number, and it's probably bigger, but this is the fundamental number. Science and medicine tells us 90% of cardiovascular disease, people that have heart attacks or occluded blood vessels or arteriosclerosis or these cardiovascular diseases, large family, 90% of that disease has there was nothing wrong with the body to begin with. It was the mind as the driver of the body that was not using good driver education, so to speak, and destroyed the health. And yet, why is that important? Because if you get re-educated, you can not only stop cardiovascular disease, you can actually regenerate from cardiovascular disease. This is very important research. There's a scientist by the name of Dean Ornish, and he's written several books. He did a lot of research and got it published. And here's what he did. He was a cardiovascular surgeon. And what he showed was this. Rather than the conventional treatment when a cardiac patient comes in, conventional treatment is to give them drugs. He said, rather than that, I want to take a group of patients, and instead of giving them drugs, I'm going to teach them how to reduce their stress. I'm going to teach them meditation techniques. I'm going to teach them how to have a better diet, to eat better food. So in other words, he gave them better education. Here's the shocking result. Not only did the disease stop, but in these patients, they actually regenerated all the damaged tissue and became normal again. And what's interesting, conventional medical treatment with drugs will not do that. It won't even do that. If they can just slow it down, they think they've done a good thing. And here, Dean Ornish showed that not only can you stop it, you can actually repair it. But then I saw Dean Ornish on an interview, and he was very upset because he said, if I got the same results with a drug, every doctor on the planet today would be prescribing this drug. He said, but I did it without drugs, and nobody's talking about the research. And again, that goes back to our original thing we talked about, that the drug companies don't want you to know this. It's much more profitable to sell you cardiac drugs than to let you learn that if you change your behavior and change your programming, you don't need any drugs at all. And you'll get healthier.
Exactly. And
so these are the issues that we have to face.
Exactly, and again, this is a factor that we also have to take into account here. I think when speaking of awareness and consciousness, and we have to tie in this factor that all the pharmaceutical companies out there, necessarily don't have your best interest at heart, so to speak, and you have to become aware and kind of accept that and move on and realize that you have to take, control of your own life and make sure, for your own sake, how to become more healthy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, the bottom line is this. Pharmaceutical companies are corporations. And what is the goal of the corporation? You might say the goal of the corporation is to create whatever the end product is that they make. And I'd say, but that's not really true. The goal of a corporation is to make a profit. That's what makes a corporation successful. They measure themselves in their profits. Even if they make junk, it doesn't make a difference if they make profit. Well, the idea is the pharmaceutical industry, we believe because we want to, is that they're our friends and they're trying to help us. And the truth is, they don't care about us. They just want to make drugs. They want to make money. And so when they start giving people more of these statin drugs to cut cholesterol, it turns out there's no real science that the cholesterol is the problem. But it's just a belief system. And in fact, it turns out there's enough information now to show that the statin drugs create more problems than healing. And that statin drugs are useful, but only useful for people who are most critically on the edge of a heart attack. It's not a prevention drug. It's at the point, if you're going to be right at the edge of a heart attack, then take these statin drugs. But if you're not near that, then it's not taking the statin drugs, it's changing your lifestyle. And yet people don't want to change their lifestyle because they say it's easier to take a drug. And that's an unfortunate situation because that's a belief as well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and you mentioned, and this might be a good point to begin to round off our discussion here today, but you mentioned a little bit about meditation. I want to kind of dive into this area of actually how this is obviously very different for people, and they can find their own way to kind of get in touch with their center, becoming more aware, and different people use different techniques for this, meditation and so forth being one of them. Do you have any kind of recommendations or good, practices, I guess, for people?
Well, there are many different recommendations, and it's funny because I was laughing when you were talking about different people have different meditation techniques, because people say, well, Bruce, do you meditate? And I go, at first I was saying, no, I don't have any exercise. And then when I explain to somebody, oh, yeah, I love doing the dishes. And they say, you love doing the dishes? I say, yeah, well, while I'm doing the dishes, it's sort of mindless. And they say, oh, mindless? Oh, you're doing meditation. And I didn't realize that that's exactly what I was doing, is by disconnecting and freeing the mind of these stresses. And that's one way to get there. But there are so many different ways to get there. And I have on my website, brucelipton.com, a place called Resources, which give a whole variety of processes that you can engage to change your belief systems. And some of them are so exciting because some of these new ones, they collectively come under a heading called energy psychology. And there's a whole variety of different approaches, but they all end up doing about the same thing. And that is, you can actually rewrite limiting or self-sabotaging beliefs in a matter of 10 minutes when you know how to do it. And the problem, I think, here's the problem. Again, we've talked about some problems that people face. Let me bring this up about a problem when we recognize that we have behaviors that we don't like. Let's say I'm recognizing I have behavior and I don't like it. And our conventional approach is to talk to ourselves about it. So I'm talking to myself, Bruce, you could do better, don't do this, and I'm trying to change my behavior by talking to myself, okay? No, the joke is this. Is this going to lead to a change in behavior? And some people call call also positive thinking. They say, oh, if you just have positive thinking, you're going to fix it. And I'm thinking, well, that's just like talking to yourself with positive thoughts. Is this going to change the behavior? So now I go back and say, wait, there are two minds. The conscious mind, which is our personal identity, the creative mind, the one that has positive thinking and the ideas of being better. That comes from the conscious mind. And I say, and then there's the subconscious mind, which is this big 1,000,000 times more powerful machine. And here's the truth, that you can understand it, then it becomes important. The subconscious mind is the equivalent of a tape recorder. It records experiences, and then when you push the button, it plays the experience back again. Well, the relevance about that is there's nobody in the tape recorder. So when we're feeling we're going to talk to ourselves and give ourselves some good positive thinking, I say, which mind has positive thinking? I say, the conscious mind. I say, yeah. And when you're saying this positive thinking, who are you talking to? And then you say, well, the subconscious mind. And then I say, but there's nobody in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind's a tape player. So I give them the suggestion. I say, look, I give you a cassette, and you put it in your cassette tape player, and you push the button, and the program is playing. So it's like the subconscious mind, push the button, the program is playing. And then I say, and you don't like the program, so you go up to the cassette player and you talk to it. And I say, how long of talking to this tape player will it be before the tape changes the program? And you say, it will not change the tape program. That's because there's nobody in the machine. But then you say, can you change the tape player? I say, yes, but you have to learn how to push the record button. And that's a process. There's a processes. So when you learn processes for changing the program, then you can change the program. If you think that talking to yourself is going to change the program, or becoming aware of what the problem is, this is like the failure of conventional psychology. I go to psychology sessions for a year, and I come back and I can say, right now I can tell you every reason. I just learned every reason why my life is not working right. And then I turn around and realize, yeah, but my life is still not working right, still exactly the same as it was before. I'm aware of why it's not working, but I'm still having the same life. And the reason is this. You became aware in your conscious mind of all the reasons, but that doesn't change the tape. So this is again the failure of, yes, I can tell you all the reasons why why your life isn't working, but even though I tell you those reasons, it itself does not change the subconscious program. There's other ways to do that, and as I mentioned, consciousness, Buddhist mindfulness, that's one way of doing it. You operate from the conscious mind ultimately by repetitive processing over a long period of time. The subconscious mind acquires a new behavior. That's one way of doing it. There's clinical hypnotherapy, where a hypnotherapist actually sets your mind into a record state where you can re-record the programs in the subconscious mind. And then again, I prefer the much faster and quicker energy psychology modalities, where in many cases, 10 or 15 minutes, you can rewrite a behavior that has limited you your whole life and walk away a different person. So, in other words, it's very interesting, especially the energy psychology, is that we're getting closer as we started our discussion into crises on this planet that threaten our lives. And that these crises are in part generated by our own behaviors that are destructive of ourselves and of the planet. And that this is, there's a phrase that's called necessity is the mother of invention. And it's interesting because we're facing grave necessity to change our lives now very quickly. And in that necessity, these new energy modalities, energy psychology modalities have been invented so that we can now start to make those changes very quickly.
I think that's an excellent point to round up the program here today. The new book, of course, again here is called The Biology of Life, Unleashing the Power of Consciousness, Matter and Miracles. And I have two websites here that I want to give out. Beliefbook.com is one way, but also check out Bruce's website, brucelipton.com. And